to tell you about why I used to hate date night and what we had to change to actually make date night worthwhile. I'm going to be a little vulnerable here about what we used to deal with. Um, this was several years ago. This is so different than who we are now. But at the time, my husband was under an intense amount of stress at work. And the way he showed up at date night and the way I showed up at date night actually made it not productive. The opposite of productive. It actually made things worse. So I want to help you avoid these mistakes, and I want to give you 3 rules that we now have about date night that allows us to show up as our best selves and be ready to connect. So my name is Alexis Kiwi, and I help entrepreneurs that are couples that are trying to work together, but they're dealing with disconnection and lack of communication. And I help them overcome it so that they can work together to build a business and a life that they love. So I'm just going to be real with you right now. I used to, this was again at least 4 or 5 years ago. My mother-in-law would watch our kids every Tuesday, and it was date night, yay, right? One of the most important things, aspects for connection. That's what they say. And I would drop my kids off, and I would spend the 20-minute drive back to my house thinking of all the things that I'd rather be doing than going on a date with my husband. And it took me a while till I caught that this was my thought pattern, and I realized that it was so negative, and it was not setting me up for success, but it was based on what I knew I was going into. And at the time, my husband worked an hour away, and he worked a very stressful job where he was overseeing a team in all of these different facilities. So he would spend his day in Colorado traffic driving from one facility to another, dealing with problems left and right. And then he would drive an hour back in heavy duty Colorado traffic. And I don't have a lot of experiences to compare it to, but I can tell you that one of the things that we notice in Colorado is that there's a serious sense of entitlement where it's, oh, well, if we're going to come to the stop sign at the same time, then I'm just going to blow the stop sign and make sure that I get my turn first. That's how people drive here. You have a tiny little space, well, my car goes in that space. So it's very stressful. And so he would drive home, and he would spend the first hour or so of date night unloading all of the stress of his day. And I would sit there very quietly instead of speaking up or doing anything to intentionally help offset this. Because again, I was showing up with this horrible energy of like, I don't even want to be here. I could be doing this. I could be doing a craft. I could be going shopping. I could be walking in a park. I could be doing all of these different things that would fill my energy, but instead I'm sitting here dealing with yours. That was my attitude, which was a horrible attitude. And then he would sit there for an hour and unload until literally there was no vitality left inside of me. And we would order food, and then we'd watch a movie. And that was date night for I don't know how long. And I finally reached breaking point because I couldn't do it anymore. This was actually something that should be putting vitality into our marriage, and instead it was draining both of us. There was nothing productive about it. It was not something to look forward to. And so there are some rules we had to put in place so that we could enjoy date night together, so that we could both show up in our best energy and allow ourselves to be who we truly wanted to be. And so I want to share those with you today because date night, if it's not done productively, can actually be the opposite. And I want this to be a source of joy for you and your marriage. For you to look forward to connecting with your best friend. Now it's our favorite night of the week. We look forward to it every single week, and when it doesn't happen because the kids are sick or our babysitter's not available, whatever, it's actually like there's this real disappointment that hits that we have to be like, okay, well, we get to look forward to next week, but I want that for you. And so I want to share with you these rules that you can easily implement. Number 1 is that once date night starts, there are no stressful topics allowed at date night. Now, stressful topics for you guys might be different than stressful topics for others. So decide what your stressful topics are. For us, we have no problem talking about the business because we're in a place where it's energizing. We actually bounce off of each other's energy. One of us gets inspired about an idea, we share it with the other person, and it actually builds our date night. So think about that. The top 3 stressors, I believe, are finances, intimacy, and children. And so if those are stressful for you, don't bring those topics into date night. You can deal with those things at other times. So don't bring your fights into date night, right, is what I would say. Don't bring your fights into date night. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is don't make it one person's job to plan date night. You both have so much going on, right? And so unless it really works for you, and that's something that when you did your agreement sheet, you turned that into an agreement, then what I would say is alternate who plans it. And sometimes date night is grocery shopping for us, right? Some nights we're like, you know what? I'm gonna love talking to you up and down every aisle in Costco because that is what we need to do this week. We need to accomplish grocery shopping, so we're gonna do it together. It doesn't always have to be something huge. It doesn't always have to be something big. It's the intentionality behind it. How can you connect through that experience? What can you talk about in Costco? Or, it was really funny one day, my husband and I were in Costco, and this was part of this 8-week challenge that I did earlier this year, and I had to get in 10,000 steps, and I was really short that day. And so he literally decides in his head that we're going to play this game where he's going to go grab something, and then he's going to follow me around Costco while I look for him. It was so annoying. But once I figured out what he was doing, I thought it was hilarious, and I got my steps in Costco. So there you go. Make it fun, right? Use a little bit of creativity, even in the mundane things where you're like, this is so not what I would rather be doing on date night. But both of you applying that energy to date night allows you to show up on the weeks that you're doing it and gives the other person a break from having to think of new ideas and be creative, okay? So alternate who does it. Or if one person's doing it, give them ideas. Give them ideas and support them. Put both of your brains together. And tip number 3 is try for one new experience monthly. And that can be anything. You know what you've done. You know if you're in kind of a date night rut. Like I said, for us at that season, it was like, we're going to sit here and we're going to have all this negativity in the beginning, and then we're going to order food when we're too tired to do anything else to watch a movie, right? That was date night. What can you do once a month to kind of pull out of that and go and try something new? Be a little bit brave. And if you need ideas, drop date night in the comments, and I will send you my guide for 10 free date night ideas. Come back and let me know what you're going to try in the comments.